What's up, guys? We are Tottenham TV here, previewing the massive game on Saturday, early kickoff against Liverpool at Wembley. We're here with Chris from RedmenTV. How you doing, Chris? Welcome back to
I'm
the
all
channel.
right, mate. Thanks for having me on the channel again.
Yeah, always a pleasure, always a pleasure. Listen, big game, obviously, on Saturday. Spurs have quite a decent recent record, obviously past season probably. We were unbeaten against you, but what are your thoughts going into the game?
I'm nervous, because Liverpool have got, and I'm sure Tottenham are in exactly the same boat here. We've got, I think it's 7 games in 22 days, and it starts with Tottenham Hotspur. We then play PSG on the Tuesday. We've got Southampton, then we've got a double-header against Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, and then the Premier League, and then we've got Napoli, and then we've got Manchester City. So it's a reasonably tough run of fixtures.
That's quite a tough run, yeah.
And for me, it's about putting a marker down, and not just for the rest of the Premier League, if we can get a victory against you, but for how these run of games are going to go. I think we need to set a precedent for being able to go out and prove that we're a good side and go and get victory. Obviously, it's the stadium of Dejan Lovren's demise last season when you slaughtered us that day at Wembley, and Lovren was just had on toast, I suppose, by Harry Kane. And it's unlikely that Lovren's going to figure in this game, but the team will want to do better. Obviously, I don't think we deserved the draw last time out. Klopp's record against Pochettino's decent. It's 2 wins, 4 draws, 1 loss, and the 1 loss came last season, didn't it? It's going to be a struggle. Tottenham, I believe, are one of the best sides in the league. I don't think it matters too much that you haven't strengthened. I think Pochettino is one of the best coaches in the league. And I think sometimes there's too much emphasis placed on transfers. And I think, not enough emphasis placed on developing a squad and a side and a unity and a style of play. And Pochettino has all of those things going at Tottenham. For me, it feels like one of those games where it's the toss of the coin as to who wins this game. Now, maybe I'm wrong here, Sim, but it feels like if we beat you, Tottenham fans will start pointing back at the transfer window as an area, because you're probably looking across enviously at Liverpool and thinking, well, hang on, they did well last season, they got to the Champions League final, they stayed in the top 4, yet they've gone out and strengthened, and maybe Tottenham should have done something like that.
No, I hear that. That was my next point. Obviously, we both had quite contrasting transfer windows in the summer, but what Liverpool did was they identified their weaknesses very strategically and kind of attacked those weaknesses, and that's exactly where they improved. Obviously, Spurs fans kind of wanted that for their club. Obviously, it didn't quite happen, but there's 2 sides to the coin with Spurs. It's great to have the stability, keep the top players, but do you feel like Spurs needed those extra couple of additions if they wanted to really challenge for the title, in your opinion?
No, I don't, and maybe the squad size is going to come back and bite Pochettino on the arse. So maybe you're right. Maybe that is the area that he should have addressed. But I don't look at Spurs starting 11, and listen, I don't watch 90 minutes of Spurs every single week. So clearly you'll be able to talk better on this. But for me, I don't look at Spurs as 11 and think there's an obvious weakness. Whereas last season I looked at Liverpool's and thought there was probably 3 areas of obvious weakness. So I think what Spurs have got to do is increase the size of the squad. Now, Pochettino, rightly or wrongly, has decided that he can't get players to improve the first 11. And if he can't get players to improve the first 11, what's the point in spending 90 million or 70 million or 60 million on a player? Is it worth just waiting and trying to get your targets, which is something that Klopp's done?
But when a manager comes out and says they couldn't find the players to improve the starting 11, is there a case to be made that could be a fault with the scouting system? Or maybe
of course there's a case. Of course there's going to be a case to be made there. But Liverpool, and I'll talk from my own experiences, Liverpool have been in a position whereby we've been in the top 4, maybe not only the last couple of years, but previous to that, let's say 27 to 2012, we were in the top 4 every year. But the players that we wanted to improve us weren't coming into the club. So what we do is we buy from this Europa League pool of players, and shockingly enough, we didn't improve. If you can't get the players that you want from the top sides, maybe something, as we speak, Dybala's said that he might leave in January, and there's rumours coming out of Palermo that Dybala might leave. Now, if it was someone like that and Tottenham lose out to a Barcelona or something like that, I understand that. That's going to happen. We've been there with you guys. Where we've both been going for players and they've chose Tottenham ahead of Liverpool. And, it seems like the tables might be turning on that front. It seems like players might want to come and play for us. over Tottenham, but it swings and roundabouts. It happens, it doesn't happen, and it's a difficult situation for Pochettino to be in, because I think if he truly believes he can't improve the side, why is he going to waste the money? Maybe in 6 months' time, someone comes along and he goes, that's the guy I wanted all along. Just like Klopp did with Virgil van Dijk. I'm not going to spend 30, 40, 50 million on a defender who's not as good as him. I'm going to try and wait. I'm trying to go and get me target, and maybe next season I'll improve. It's not something we like as fans, because we have a very short-term mentality on it, but...
Sure. All right, moving on to so we did a combined 11 on Sunday with another Liverpool channel, Captured Reds. Check out the link in the description below if you want to see that. There's been the video has been downvoted by quite a lot of Liverpool fans, and I'll tell you the reason why is because we didn't put Van Dijk in the combined 11. We for our way we decided to put Jan and Toby in there. A lot of Liverpool fans in the comments thinking we're deluded, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They think he's one of the best centre-backs in the world. I actually watched your podcast. I did a bit of research. And you seem to think he's definitely up there with one of the best centre-backs in the world. Do you think he's the best in the Premier League at the moment?
Yeah, I do, actually. I think he's up there with a fit and firing Vincent Kompany, but it's whether you're going to get that fit and firing Vincent Kompany. The other centre-back that is up there, the other two centre-halves that are up there for me, would be Vertonghen and would be Alderweireld. You know, Alderweireld didn't play enough last season because of his struggles and his problems, but Jan Vertonghen, I always thought Alderweireld was the better centre-half, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Having watched a lot more of Vertonghen last season, I realised that his level is really high as well. Now, this is a preference, isn't it? I'm going to say my guy, you're going to say your guy, and that's fair enough. Like, if you're making a combined 11, there is an argument to be made for keeping a pairing, and I could understand that point of view. I just think Van Dijk's a little bit better.
But I'm not sure where you get that. Okay, obviously you're a Liverpool fan, you watch him every week, but he's been at Liverpool 6 months. Your defence did improve dramatically, but Vertonghen and Toby have been like consistently over the past 3 or 4 years now up there with the one. You know, we've had one of the meanest defences in the Premier League over the last 3 years, and they've been central to that. I'm not sure just based on these last 6 months he can automatically jump ahead of them. If you see, I mean, for me, he has to have a consistent period. Do you not agree with that?
No, I would agree with that. I think, you know, it's absolutely fine to say, you know, let's compare it. Mo Salah isn't as good a player as Lionel Messi because Lionel Messi's done it for 10 years.
Fine, fair.
You know what I mean? I totally understand that argument. But if I was starting a football team today from scratch with a player, I would pick Van Dijk over Alderweireld because I think he's slightly better. And it's minuscule. You know what I mean? It's like shades it. But if you're looking back over 2 years, well, to be fair, these lads have been playing in a very, very strong side for a couple of years. Van Dijk was playing at Southampton. Prior to that, he was playing at Celtic. Isn't able to shine on the same stage as these lads. You might have a different opinion. You might look at it and go, well, they're the safer bet. I look at the age of them as well. I think Alderweireld, is he 29 or 30 years old now?
He's 29, yeah. Vertonghen's 31, yeah.
So I would look at that and go, well, Van Dijk's mid-20s. And if I'm signing a player right now, I'm picking Virgil van Dijk because I know I'm going to get the next 7 years out of him.
That's fair enough. But would you say in the last 6 months since Van Dijk's come in, like, for example, your run to the Champions League, it wasn't exactly your defence that got you there, was it? I think that would be fair to say.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. I think, you know, you just have to look at the game against Porto away from home where we twatted them 5-0 and, you know, the goals that we were scoring against Roma and the goals both home and away. And yeah, I think, you know, it's obviously a team game, but certainly the emphasis was on attack last season for Liverpool. And there's an adjustment period to a centre-half coming into a side. I think Lovren and Matip were rotated alongside Virgil van Dijk.
Yes.
For the early part of it, you know, you're not building up that relationship that you want there. We had a young kid in Trent Alexander-Arnold, 18, 19 years old, playing right back, Andy Robertson's first season at the football club, and we had a goalkeeper who hasn't covered himself in glory, but was playing really good football at the time.
There's something that I picked up on your podcast as well that you mentioned, which actually the title of the podcast is the rivalry between. It's more of a social media rivalry between Spurs
Definitely
and Liverpool
more of
fans.
a social media rivalry.
I've never really encountered it in real life, but for some reason, whenever something happens to Harry Kane or where he claims a goal, gets injured, I get a barrage on my timeline of Scousers just tweeting at me or tweeting, you know. What do you think that is? Obviously, on the podcast, you said from your side it's more Spurs fans coming to you. From our side, it's more Liverpool fans coming to us. Do you take any notice of that kind of stuff, or is it just war for ducks back for you?
It certainly exists online. I just don't see it as a rivalry, and I don't do a lot of research for shows. I generally just talk, and some of my opinions I fumble to during a show, and it certainly felt like during that podcast that you mentioned, it dawned on me that it can't be a rivalry because we only really play twice a year. Like we play Watford twice a year, do you know what I mean? And it could become a major rivalry because I think there's two very, very good sides that are obviously competing for the same positions in the league. But until we start meeting in cup finals or in semi-finals or the Champions League, it's never really going to grow much more. Our rivals are Manchester United and Everton, and then we had that huge rivalry with Chelsea spring out of the mid-noughties because we were meeting them in Champions League semi-finals and we were meeting them in cups and stuff like that. That's when a real sort of competitive rivalry is sort of is born. And until we start doing that, we just banter rivals online.
Yeah, well, I think there's an element to it where I think obviously you were part of, I think between like whatever in the 90s up until like 2009, you were part of that Sky Four, right? The big four, and then kind of once Rafa left, Spurs kind of muscled their way in there. I think kind of got into that top four, kind of overtook Liverpool. Do you not think maybe some Liverpool fans just see Spurs as like another hurdle now to overcome?
Listen, some fans could. I think. Over the last few years, Spurs have finished higher in the league than us consistently. I recognise that. If you're looking up at a side, and you're looking up at the top four. A couple of years ago, as Liverpool, and you're thinking they're the ones that we think we can knock out. That's what we need to do. You can use them as a target, a barometer of where you are as a football club. And I think Spurs have been well managed. I think Spurs have done incredibly well with what resources they have. I think I love the fact that they've been able to make a stadium, build a new stadium. Although the troubles that you've got with that are what they are. But certainly, there will be a jealousy from us in that we wanted to be playing Champions League football and Tottenham were playing Champions League football and vice versa. There must be a jealousy the other way around. It's like we want to get to semi-finals of Champions Leagues, and we see that Liverpool have done it. And how they managed to get there when we've been better than them for the last few years. And of course, there's going to be a rivalry. There's a rivalry with every club in the Premier League, but in the rawest sense, a proper rivalry, I just don't see it yet.
Do you when you come up against a team like Spurs on Saturday, do you feel like our strengths are kind of what you struggle against, or do you feel like you're well suited to play a team like us?
It depends how you play, to be honest with you. I think the games between us, apart from the one at Wembley last season, have been really tight. It was a 2-2. I think was there a penalty towards the end that was given to Spurs last time out and stuff like that. And I think previous to that, we maybe beat you 2-1.
You beat us 2-0 at Anfield.
That was Mane.
Mane got a couple early goals, and then there was a 1-1 draw at White Hart Lane the time before that.
So it's been close, and I think that's representative of where the teams are in the league as well. I think it's two styles of play that are very, very similar. I love Pochettino's style of football. I really do. I think he's an incredible coach, and I like watching Spurs play football as well. That's another thing, and it depends how you play. I mean, if you're gonna sit back, then you've got a really strong defence and you've got the ability to counter-attack us. But if you come at us, I think that then suits us. I think you've seen that by the fact that we do all right against Manchester City and we do all right against sides that come at us. So it's whether Pochettino shows us that little bit of respect maybe and decides to sit back. I think you'll do better. But if you come at us, it's anyone's to win. Do you know what I mean? It's not as cut and dry as, well, if you come at us, Liverpool are going to win, because equally Spurs have got great players.
It's going to be an interesting one. I think what an element of the game at Wembley last season, which isn't touched upon, I think, as much as, say, like Lovren's downfall, is the fact that we actually changed our formation for that game. We played the formation that England played in the summer. We played that at Wembley last year, that 5-3-2. And we've kind of adopted that this year. so far this season. I'm expecting us to play. Obviously, the injury news has just come out that Dele Alli's out, so whether that affects what formation Spurs are going to play remains to be seen. But I'm expecting us to play that formation against you on Saturday. So, do you think that kind of do you think Liverpool are kind of susceptible to that kind of tactical fluidity, or does it don't really bother you really what kind of formation they come up against? Whether it be 5 or 4.
I think sometimes, and it depends, like if you play a straight 3 at the back with 2 very, very offensive wing backs, I think Liverpool tend to take advantage of those situations just because of Salah and Mane's pace and being able to drag those centre halves wide into areas that they probably don't want to cover. If it's a straight 5 at the back, it becomes a little bit more difficult for us, of course. It's so difficult when you look at this because it's the 2 up top thing. We don't come up against it very often.
No, exactly.
Now I saw what Manchester United or what Lucas Moura did to Manchester United. Now I don't think Spurs were very good first half. I thought Manchester United had the best of it, but second half they were lethal. And I suppose Liverpool's defence has got better this season. We're not committing as many players forward, so hopefully we won't be able to be caught in behind, sort of like you did against Manchester United. But that would be my biggest fear, that you're able to do that. And that you know, I don't know whether Harry Kane and Moura have quite clicked yet. It doesn't quite look like the same Harry Kane as we've previously seen. But then, is that the England thing? Is that the World Cup? I don't think anybody's really playing at that level at the moment.
It's an interesting one, that Harry Kane thing, because he got injured in March last year, and obviously the stats bear out, and I think everyone can see he doesn't look the same player. He's not that kind of fresh striker who's kind of all over the place, kind of firing shots from left, right and centre, you know, testing the keeper all the time. But it stands that since that injury, his record is still 15 goals in 19 games. So that's the fact of the matter. Like, when you see Harry Kane, especially obviously you probably watched the World Cup in the summer, do you feel like there's a sluggishness to his game at the moment?
I don't know if I watch enough of him to be able to tell those minute details, to be honest with you. I think from the Harry Kane that I know, it's based around movement, you know, and I see him as making some really intelligent runs, and that's how he gets his space without being the fastest striker in the league. And he's got a lethal shot on him. You know, I was speaking to Flav from the Fighting Cock podcast this week, and he was saying that the main difference is that he doesn't seem to be shooting from outside the area anymore. And you know, Kane scores a lot of goals from outside the area, so I don't know if there's a sluggishness to his game. I don't know whether he enjoys playing up top with somebody else, or he likes to be the focal point of that team. But certainly, I think his all-round game probably isn't as good now as it was prior to March. But then, it's everybody's in the same boat. Liverpool's front 3, Mo Salah, you know, 44 goals last season. He got a couple of goals this season and an assist in that, but he's not looking anywhere near as good in-game. But he's still affecting football matches. Yeah, he's still affecting football matches, and that's what Harry Kane's able to do. Even when they're not at the top of the game, they're still so good that they can help you win games.
There was an element for a player like Dele Alli, who 2 seasons ago he got like 18 Premier League goals, had like a crazy season, and then like last season he had like, for a Premier League midfielder, he had like scored like 10 goals, but everyone said he had a poor season because of the heights he set. If say like Salah scored like 20 goals instead of 30, would you reckon people would be disappointed with his performance?
I would be, yeah. I think I'd be massively disappointed because you know what level they can achieve. Now, it's always going to be more difficult the second season, isn't it, when you're playing in a team and people know how to deal with you. But as long as Mane's scoring goals, and he's doing that this season, Roberto Firmino gets off the mark as well against Leicester. Ultimately, it's about the team winning, and I think Salah would take that as well. You know, I'm sure he'd rather have 20 goals and a medal or some silverware on his sideboard than 40 goals. I'm not sure the same could be said of Harry Kane, by the way.
You don't think so?
I think he's all about the goals, mate. There's your banter. There's your rivalry for you. I couldn't resist it.
Listen, Mo Salah was just about much about the Golden Boot as Harry Kane, I think.
Yeah, true.
Wow, really? That tweet.
We were still winning games, and he didn't take any goals off his teammates. So
he got a touch. Everyone could see he got a touch. That was clear for everyone to see. I asked you this question last time we spoke, but I wonder if your perspective's changed on it. If Klopp again doesn't win the trophy this season, given the amount of money he spent, Is that like last year you said obviously you'd maybe give him a couple of years if you haven't won a trophy by then you'd start to look at it. Now, I don't know if you expected to spend that much in the summer when we spoke back in February. So has that changed a bit? That perspective?
No, not really. I think I'm quite level-headed. I try and see the long and short of it all. I try and see the end game, and I look into the future. And as long as we're improving, then I think that's all you can do. I've said at points during last season, this Manchester City side is so good that everybody might have to just sit on their hands for a bit and wait for a bit of a drop off, because the level they were playing at last season, it's never been seen in the Premier League before. And although I think we're the second best side in this league, maybe the first best, I don't see Liverpool as winning the league this season. I see us as challenging and as getting closer, but we had a 25-point gap to Manchester City last season. That's incredibly difficult to close. They've strengthened as well. Tottenham side will get better, although they haven't strengthened for playing together for one more year. You never really know what Chelsea's going to do. They have that good year, bad year last year, and then a good year again. It's an incredibly competitive league, and there's 20 teams going for a league title every single season, and there's 6 or 7 that can probably legitimately say that we can win the league this season, whether you think that or not. They'll be believing that, and so I want trophies, but I believe in Jurgen Klopp, and I sit here and say trust the manager all the time. Well, you've got to do that with your actions as well.
It's kind of similar to how he was at Dortmund. It kind of took him a few years to kind of start really challenging, and then the league started coming. So maybe you have to just be patient.
Yeah, he had 7 years at Mainz, he had 7 years at Dortmund. Obviously, the last couple weren't so good. I think people, Liverpool fans, when he came into the club, wanted what his success that he had at Dortmund, but they maybe didn't want the journey that it took him to get that success. And I think sometimes you have to believe in a coach, you have to believe in a team, and you have to believe in their principles. And I think most on the majority of Liverpool fans do that and do believe in them. We're always thinking we can win the league, aren't we? No Liverpool
At least
fans,
you admit it, yeah.
Genuinely says this is our year, but we're always hoping. And if you don't have that hope, what's the point, man? What are you in it for? Like, you've got to enjoy the journey. It's like at the end of the 13-14 season, we were singing we're going to win the league and all that type of stuff, and everyone's going, you can't sing that. When can you sing it? When can you sing we're going to win the league? When you've won it. Oh, what's the point in that? What's that boring, isn't it? You know what I mean? You're trying to support your side, you're trying to spur them on. Sing, believe, hope. I think the difference between this season and last season is that there is a genuine belief that Liverpool can win the league this season, whereas it's always been hope prior to that. I think there is a genuine belief that we can actually do it. Whether we will or not is another thing. Yeah,
I kind of feel like a lot of Spurs fans also kind of miss out on that journey. They kind of just want it. Like, for example, when we didn't win the league against Leicester or against Chelsea the last couple of years, people kind of gone back telling us we're bottling the league and all that. And a lot of Spurs fans were just wondering whether our time has been and gone. But I think it is. I agree with you. I think that journey is so important. I think people don't appreciate it enough. Just getting to somewhere and like achieving it instead of like, for example, obviously Leicester, fantastic achievement for them winning the league, but look at them now. They're not exactly challenging every year. It's kind of a one-off. At least Spurs are kind of have an upward trajectory. So I think I agree with you on that part. I think the journey is very important. So looking on Saturday, then, what's your prediction for the game?
2-1 Liverpool.
2-1 Liverpool.
Yeah, Naby Keita to get his first goal at the club.
He looks a real player, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's bossing.
I must say, he looks a proper baller in that centre mid. You paid what, 50 million for him?
Yeah, but we signed him a year before, didn't we?
Yeah,
so he played
clever bit of business. Very clever.
It's clever, and imagine the insurance that you're having to pay on that. As a football club, you obviously insure your players, don't you? And you're insuring a player who's playing over in Germany that you've got no control over, you can't do any of his training. Shows you the faith and the trust that we had in him as a player, and he's come in and he's looked good.
Yeah, he looked very good. All right, I think it's a tough game. It's hard to call this one. You know what? I wouldn't even be that disappointed with a draw. Obviously, I want Spurs to win. I think at this stage of the season, I think if we were to lose this game, that would strike quite a big blow into how our mentality would be for the rest of the season. So I'm going to go 2-2. I'm going to think 2-2 draw. I think that's how it's going to be. I think at the moment we're not on a great point in terms of just our squad, in terms of like fitness wise. I think a lot of people aren't on great form and we're struggling with a few fitness issues. So I think if we come away with a draw, it'll be a positive result for us. I think a lot of Spurs will probably disagree with that. Probably a lot of Spurs fans wanting to win, but I wouldn't be too disappointed personally with a draw in this game early in the season. So that's how I see it. All right. Well, cheers for coming on, Chris. Absolute pleasure having you on. Always good having a good chat with you.
Cool, nice one. Appreciate it. Thanks very much. And if you listen, subscribe to his channel.
Check out Redmen. There'll be a link in the description below. They have absolutely great content. And I watched that interview you guys got with Klopp. That's absolutely great stuff. Great to get him on. And it's something to aspire to. If you can get someone like Klopp on your channel, if I got Poch on our channel, that'd just be a dream come true. And
it's mad,
amazing
isn't it?
to see. Yeah, it's amazing to see stuff like that. Check out their Klopp interviews. Really good stuff. All right, nice one. Cheers for coming on.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.